I see the same thing happen all the time. Like, I don't know, multiple times a day. I hear the same thing from the women that I speak to. They don't know how to capture what they do because they do work that is kind of hard to capture in words, right? They might, have some generic phrase that they could use to describe what they do, like I'm a coach, or I am a designer, or I am a photographer, or whatever it might be. I'm a psychologist, right? But they know that that doesn't actually capture the work that they do because they're doing something that is very unique. They have a special process that they go through with their clients. They see transformations in their clients that are not so easy to put into words. And so they really struggle when it comes to wordsmithing their way to a perfect elevator pitch. And it feels super clunky. And the real reason this is happening is because most people are asking the wrong questions. They're asking, what do I do? And they obsess over how to describe what they do. But that is not what's going to make you memorable. That is not what defines you as a brand. And so when I work with clients on defining what makes them special as a brand and really pulling out the magic of what they do, yes, I have to understand what they do, but there's so much more to it. And that's why we really get underneath the brand and understand what is special about this brand. Who is this person behind the brand? And why does this exist? So today I want to walk you through the most crucial part of the work that I do with my clients. Really, really, this is the most crucial part. Every client I work with starts here. And I'm telling you, this is going to change the game. So I'm giving away something really powerful here today, and it's going to change how you think about your brand and what sets you apart. And it's going to change how you talk about your brand and what sets you apart. So let's dive in. Hey, beautiful human. You're listening to Bold Women in Business, the show where strategy meets soul in marketing, branding, and business growth. I'm your host, Rachel Honeyman, messaging and branding strategist, content queen, and compulsive meaning maker. Every week, I'll help you ditch the cookie cutter playbook and build a brand that actually sounds like you, sells like hell, and feels so damn good to show up for. Let's get bold. Let's start by looking at the problem. Why is intangible work so hard to describe? Well, because it's intangible, right? The transformation is sometimes invisible. Let's just say you're a weight loss coach and you help clients lose weight and you see the number move on the scale. That's a really tangible result. But a lot of times results are not so tangible. If you are a weight loss coach who works much more on the mindset side of things, and yes, the scale moves, but that is just one tiny part of what you do. And really, you're working with people on their mindset and their relationships with their body and their relationship with food and their relationship with exercise and how they feel. This is not a tangible thing that you can just pinpoint, X percent result, right? That's not something that you can pinpoint in such a clear way. The results that you get are going to vary from person to person because it's super personal. And the process, therefore, is very personal and nuanced. So it's not so easy to define the process of what you do because it really changes from person to person. And this is where I see people run into a lot of problems with this idea of productizing their services, right? Which I actually think is such a good idea. It's so beneficial whenever possible to productize your services because it makes it a lot easier for the person who's considering working with you to understand, what am I getting? What am I paying for? It's not just this intangible, amorphous package that they're signing up for that could go on forever. They understand there are parameters around it. It's very clearly defined and all of that, right? That's great. But the reason it's so hard to do that is because when you're providing very customized services and personalized services that are super nuanced, it's really hard to put that into a package and say, here's what this contains, right? But the traps that people fall into when they're trying to describe what they do is they over-explain. They go into this word salad of services. They use jargon like I facilitate transformational experiences, right? Or whatever jargon exists in your world. They are going to lean on that jargon. And I've talked about this before, but AI has made this so much more of a problem because AI loves jargon. So when you're using AI to help you describe your services, it's going to lean on jargony language. Now, again, you can use AI. I love AI. It's great. But if you don't kind of scrub it of the jargon and really, really humanize it, you're going to miss out on such an important connecting point. Another trap is that people get vague and fluffy, right? They say something like, I help people live their best life. And honestly, that's kind of the same as jargon, right? It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't tell us what someone is actually going to get out of working with you. And they list tactics instead of outcomes. And this is also related to the over-explaining, is that a lot of times people feel like when they are selling their services, because it doesn't have a tangible outcome, they feel this need to stuff, to stuff tactics and stuff services and stuff features into what they're offering. But really, what people are looking for is outcome and transformation, and they're looking for the result that you offer. So if you're focusing on, I offer all these services or all of these features as part of my services, you're going to confuse people, you're going to lose people, and it doesn't actually tell people what they get at the end of the day. What is the outcome? So here's something that might be hard to hear, but this is the reality, is that the what often is the same. The what is the surface level. So, coaches coach and designers design and consultants consult, right? On the surface level, a graphic designer is a graphic designer is a graphic designer. So the differentiation is not in what you do, it's in what you stand for and who you are as a person and what values drive you. And that is really what you need to be focusing on. In how you present that to your clients, it needs to be focused on the outcome, but what differentiates you as a brand is all of those other pieces. What drives you? What do you stand for? Who are you as a person? And this is why two people can offer the exact same service and attract completely different clients, or even attract kind of, again, surface level same clients, but still attracting different clients when you get a layer deeper. So I have a friend and colleague, Caitlin. On surface level, we offer the same thing. We work with service-based female entrepreneurs, and we do branding and web design. I also do the content marketing piece, but it doesn't really matter. We do very similar things on the surface. But we refer clients to each other all the time because there are a lot of differences in our approach, in the types of clients that we work with, the size of business that we work with, all of that. When you get very nuanced in who you are and what you stand for and what drives you, it gets so much easier to figure out who's the right client for you. And this is where your identity pillars come into play. So I am not kidding when I say I start here with every single client that I work with. It doesn't matter if someone is coming to me for branding and web design work or for content marketing work, or in my content coaching program right now that I'm running as we speak. By the time this comes out, we will have been in full force for a few weeks, but we are starting with identity pillars because in my opinion, identity pillars are the core of your brand. These are your non-negotiables, and these are the thing that sets you apart as a brand. It sets you apart no matter what. So I start every project with what I call my bold foundation, which I also call brand therapy session, because we have a 90-minute session where I'm just asking a million questions and really getting underneath the brand. I also call it brand therapy because a lot of times people cry in these calls, and I promise I am not a sadist, but it's always a good sign to me when a client cries in those calls, because what we're doing is we're really getting underneath what this brand stands for. Why did you create this brand? We are all doing this for really deeply mission-driven purposes. And so when we start to talk about the thing that drives us, it can get really emotional. But your identity pillars as a brand are the values and beliefs and perspectives that make you different from the 47 other people who do exactly what you do on the surface, right? These are the things that are going to set you apart. So like I said, usually I get to the core of identity pillars with a 90-minute deep dive session. But I want you to start to think about this because it's going to really, really shift things for you. I want you to ask yourself the following questions. Number one, why did you start this company or organization? I want the real underlying reason. This is not just because you didn't want to work for someone else or you wanted more freedom. Those things might be true, but there is something underneath your decision to take this very difficult path of entrepreneurship. If you just wanted to make more money, you could have applied for a different job and gotten a job that paid more money. It is so much easier to make a steady living as an employee with benefits and all of that than it is as an entrepreneur, where you kind of constantly need to be hustling. I mean, I hope that you're not constantly hustling because there are ways to really shift that where you're not constantly hustling and you have a more steady pipeline coming in. But that aside, entrepreneurship is hard. It's really hard. And so there is a deeper reason why you started this business. I've shared this before, but just briefly, one of the main drivers of me starting my business was that I was at this very low point where I had gone through this infertility journey for over 5 years and it was unsuccessful. And I came to the conclusion and the understanding that I'm never going to be a mom. And that was so hard to deal with. It's still hard to deal with. It's something that I will live with for the rest of my life. But I had this deep drive to nurture and grow something. And my business became the thing that I poured my heart and soul into. It is not a replacement for a child, obviously, but it does allow me to kind of channel that energy into something that I'm really, really proud of. And I'm building something that I believe in so deeply and that brings me so much meaning because of the types of clients that I'm working with. And I see my role as helping them make a bigger positive impact in the world. So that's just a snippet of like my origin story, why I started this. I guarantee you have your own, even if you're not totally sure what it is, it's there. There is something deeper there. So that's number one. Why did you start this? Quick pause. Can we talk about content for a second? If you're staring at a blank screen more often than you're hitting post, it might be because you're trying to create content that doesn't fit your actual strengths. It's kind of like wearing someone else's jeans. They may look super good on your friend, but you put them on and they are not comfortable and they just aren't doing your butt any favors. That's why I created the Content Marketing Power Type Quiz. It's free and it helps you figure out the kind of content you were made to create. The kind of content that feels natural, sustainable, and actually connects with your people in a way that lights you up. In just 45 seconds, or maybe even 30 if you're quick about it, you're going to find out your power type and get custom recommendations to make content feel easier and more effective. Head on over to honeybeebold.com/quiz. That's HoneyBeebold.com/quiz. Take it and then DM me your result because I kind of need to know. All right, let's dive back into the episode. Number two is what words come to mind when you think about what you stand for as a human and as a brand. And I say both because your brand is part of you as a human. I had someone ask me the other day, well, what should I think about when I'm thinking about my identity pillars? Is this about me as a human or as a brand? And I said, it's about both because your brand, again, if you think back to the question that I just asked, why did you start this organization? Why did you start this company? It all starts with your human origin story, right? It could be something that got sparked in you as a child, something that someone said to you, or a belief that you were brought up with. Maybe you're countering that belief, or maybe someone sparked something in you and you really felt this desire to grow something and build something and help people in the specific way that you do. But you stand for something as a human. You think about yourself. You have certain features of yourself that really define you. So for me, for instance, honesty and integrity are just such core parts of who I am as a person. And so obviously that was going to come through in my business as well. So that just is such a core part of who I am. That's just an example. Obviously, that's one piece, but I want you to think about, when you think about who you are as a person and what you stand for, what words come to mind? And those are going to, or they should carry over into your brand. And then what values and beliefs drive you? This is very similar to the what you stand for, but I always like to ask these questions in different ways because we think about things in different ways and different words spark different ways of thinking about things. So whether it's what you stand for or your values and beliefs, whatever gets your juices flowing, really think about what words come to mind, what ideas come to mind when you think about those values, beliefs, what you stand for. And then what words come to mind when you think about how you want to come across to your audience? So I usually actually ask this in a separate part of my intake for the Bold Foundation, which is more about messaging, right? This is your external tone and voice and messaging that comes across to your audience, but really that should come from your identity pillars. I'm going to give a little spoiler here is that the way that I build out messaging pillars is directly tied to your identity pillars. So your identity pillars, really, when I say that it is the core of everything, it is the core of everything in how I build a brand. Your identity pillars inform your messaging pillars, inform your content pillars, and then we build everything from there. So think about how you want to come across to your audience. Do you want to come across as friendly or authoritative or professional, humorous, inspiring, strong, exclusive, relatable, emotional, weird or quirky, irreverent? What do you think is the most important thing to come through in your messaging to speak to the right people and to bring your identity pillars to life? So I want to take a step back and just say identity pillars. Often when people hear this, they think that I just mean like brand values, right? And we tend to roll our eyes at brand values because so many companies have these brand values that live on their website or live on a wall in their office, and they are completely empty. They're completely meaningless. They're just like some words that live somewhere in the ether, and they don't actually have anything to do with how the company runs. So, for example, you might see authentic written on the wall in this corporate office or on their website. It might be on their about page. They have, our values, right? And they have authentic. This is super vague. It doesn't actually mean anything. I use the word authentic all the time, but I think it's within a different context and it has context to it. When you just say, we are authentic, and you don't have context behind it, it doesn't actually mean anything. And you could look at the actions of that company and say, there's nothing authentic about them, right? They lied on their tax return or they, whatever, right? They don't actually stand for the things that they say that they stand for. So authentic, which again, I believe very strongly in being authentic. And this is something that's very important to me, but it could become something like I show up as my real self, even when it is messy or ugly. And sometimes I will actually define identity pillars with a word like authentic, but it always has a follow-up, right? It always has a follow-up sentence or two that describes what this means. We need context to understand what this means and to really make it sink in. Another one could be, quality, right? We deliver quality work. What does that mean? It could become something like I go above and beyond to deliver the best work to my clients. We can get even a layer deeper and give examples, right? Give an example. This could be an internal thing that you just know, right? Remember when I had that client who just something was not sitting right, and I went and I gave them an additional draft because I didn't feel good about the first draft that I gave them. I didn't feel good about that, right? We always also have to balance our boundaries and all of that. So I'm not saying you should always deliver an additional draft or anything like that, but this is just an example, right? What does it mean when you say that you stand for quality work? It needs to mean something much deeper. When you lead with what you stand for, explaining what you do gets way easier because it has a point of view attached to it. And then your ideal clients are going to self-select because they resonate with your values and not just your services, right? Because again, if someone is looking for, I'll just again use the weight loss coach as an example. If someone is looking for a weight loss coach and they Google weight loss coach or they go on Instagram and they look up weight loss coach, they're going to be fed 7,000 hits, right? They're going to see 7,000 results. And there are going to be a million different things for them to look at and figure out what makes the most sense for them. The only way that you're going to stand out is by being yourself, truly being yourself and standing for what you stand for and being so clear in how you are driven to do this work. What is the driving force here? What's going to happen is that the people who are drawn to you and drawn to the real you are going to be drawn to you. They're going to see you in your content because your content comes from your identity pillars. And they're going to see that and see themselves in that. They're going to see resonance with you and they will flock to you. They will come to you. And you know what else is going to happen? The wrong people are going to filter themselves out. And that is a good thing. It's a good thing. I know that we have a really hard time wrapping our heads around the idea of people not wanting to work with us, right? It's a very hard thing to wrap your head around as an entrepreneur, especially if you're earlier on in business. It's really, really hard. I will tell you, I'm 3 years into business and I still have a hard time with this sometimes. Even when I know someone is not a good fit, I still have a hard time with it. I will tell you a story that just happened last week, and I am very proud of how I handled this situation, but I will tell you it was hell for my nervous system because it was so hard to deal with the idea of turning someone away. So I had a call with a potential client, and this was actually a second call with this client. So I had met with one person from the team, and she was so excited to work with me. So on paper, this was a perfect client for me. It's a female-led organization. They're doing incredible work. It's a nonprofit that I've actually given money to in the past because I believe in their work so deeply. And I was so excited to work with them because I knew that I could help them. They were just all over the place with their social media and their marketing, and they had no idea what they were doing, honestly. And basically it was just like, I could help you. And I could see immediately that with the right strategic guidance, they could achieve so much more. They could have a bigger impact. And I was so excited about this. And so I met with one person on the team and she was so excited to work with me. And she said, let's get on a call with the founder and we will figure out next steps. Great. So I go into this call assuming we are talking about which package they want to go with, and we're going to sign contracts and send invoices and all of that, right? Get them on the calendar. But it turns out this founder had a very different perspective, and she really was not aligned with my vision and was not aligned with letting me be the authority in the room. And I am when it comes to content marketing. So I go into these calls knowing I'm the authority in the room. You're coming to me because you're having this challenge. And the best partners for me are the ones who say, yeah, I trust you. I trust you and I want to work with you. And so I came into this call with that same vibe, right? The same driving forces behind me. My identity pillars live with me constantly, like constantly. They are always with me, always on my mind, because they're not just words. They are core parts of who I am and how I am building this brand. And so I went into this call with that just dripping off of me because I can't help it. It's dripping off of me. And it became clear so quickly that the founder of this organization just did not want that. She just did not want that. And so even though on paper, this was the perfect client for me, she wanted me to twist myself in knots to basically give her more for less money. And I could not do that. I couldn't do that. It would be basically undermining my own authority, my own integrity, and all the things that drive me. It would be really undermining all of those things. And so at the end of this call, basically it became clear this was not the right fit. And so I filtered this wrong fit client out. And I was sad. I was really sad and I was disappointed and I had been so excited to work with this client. But at the end of the day, I was so proud of myself for sticking by the identity pillars that drive me and for really standing up for what I believe in and for allowing the wrong people to leave. It's okay. It's hard, but it's okay. And so that's really what's going to wind up happening is that when you start showing up as your truly authentic self, and I mean that in a real way, not in the like generic brand values way, but in a real way, when you show up as yourself and the things that you stand for and what is most important to you as a person, as a human, and how you want to build your brand, you're going to attract the right people and you are going to turn the wrong people away. The wrong people are going to filter themselves out, and that is okay. So here's your exercise. I want you to grab a notebook or open your notes app or whatever, your preferred way of jotting notes down is. And I want you to answer these questions honestly. Don't answer with what you think you should say. Answer honestly, brain dump away. And then what I want you to do is I want you to go over to your AI tool of choice if you prefer. You can do this manually as well. If you are not an AI user, you don't want to use it, that's okay. You can use your brain. And I want you to look for patterns and non-negotiables. You can also brain dump into an AI tool and ask it to look for patterns and non-negotiables. Those are your identity pillars. You want to ask the AI tool of choice or yourself to look for 4 to 6 identity pillars that drive you, that are non-negotiable, that are the core of who you are as a person and how you want to build your brand. And if figuring this out on your own feels overwhelming, as I said, this is exactly what we do together in my Bold Foundation, which is the start of every project. So sometimes I do that as a standalone project. You're not going to find that on my website because in most cases, people want the follow-up, right? So the follow-up is the brand and website or the content marketing or some combination thereof. But if you're interested in just going through the Bold Foundation process with me, we could always start there. It is such a powerful process. I've had dozens of people go through this process at this point, and it is beyond transformative because people see things in a way that they've never seen them before. But whether we work together or not, I want you to know that the answer isn't in finding the perfect words. It is in getting clear on what you actually stand for. So if you go through the questions that I gave you in this episode alone, it is going to be super powerful. I would love to see what you come up with. Please feel free to DM me or send me an email with what you come up with from this exercise. And if you do want to go deeper on this together, please just reach out and say you're interested in doing a Bold Foundation or learning more about it. And I'd be happy to hop on a call and tell you more about it, talk through the details. Thanks so much for listening, and I will see you next week. All right, beautiful human. That's a wrap on this episode of Bold Women in Business. This episode was brought to you by my company, Honey Be Bold, with music by Shmukulele. But before you go, don't forget to take the Content Marketing Power Type quiz at honeybebold.com/quiz, because when your content fits your power type, showing up gets way easier and your marketing actually starts working for you. Until next time, stay bold, stay kind, and keep doing it your way.